Welcome back to Passenger Princess. Today I'm actually here with my accountant, Kyle, and we're going to talk all about money.
Hiya, I'm Kyle. I work for Axia Media Group and I am Isabel's accountant. Have been for a few years, and yeah, I'm here today on the podcast to try and...
He's in a completely different environment today, but I'm going to grill him and we're going to learn all about money and get a bit honest.
Yes, let's go for it.
We're going to get honest. Okay, so let's talk a bit about how we actually started working together, because it's quite a funny story, isn't it? So what was your first impression of me?
Going back to it, obviously I do a little bit of a snoop online, see what like your profiles are like. Obviously, when I actually know you in real life, you come across so much funnier and like much more of a laugh than maybe you do online.
Yeah.
I think online you have that very serious persona, but in real life, you're much more of a laugh, definitely.
Yeah. And I basically came to Axia Media from a recommendation from Ella Hewitt. Shout out to Ella. And I was, how would you describe it?
In a mess.
Yeah.
In short, obviously you had a lot going on. I think you'd maybe neglected the finance business side of things of your job. And it was basically my job to patch it all together.
It was chaos.
And try and get things back running.
Yeah, it was chaos. And, you know, I started doing this as a girl that had just worked in corporate. I was given a paycheck each month and I was given my money. So I literally had no idea about money, finance, VAT, tax, corporate tax, personal tax. It's very overwhelming for a young person coming into like this new world. So I'd basically been working with like a small town accountant from Bristol, and they didn't know about influencing, they didn't know about the world of creators. So I came to Axia because I needed someone that was specialised.
Yeah.
And is that something you find a lot, like, it's a complicated thing?
Yeah, we see it all the time that people come to us with issues historically because, you know, they have been either poorly advised or they haven't quite grasped that what they do now is their job, their career, that's what's going to pay their bills, that you're responsible for your own tax, finances, all that kind of stuff.
And one thing that Kyle told me like on our first phone call was, this is a business and it needs to be treated as any other business. It's not a hobby. You're not just posting TikToks, like this is a business and you need to treat it like a business model. Yeah, definitely. Which is a great piece of advice for any creators that are just starting out. Right, let's break the ice by doing what we do in every episode and ask you what's in your bag. I want to see.
It's maybe not that exciting. But let me see.
Show us your whole bag. Get it out.
Okay, let's go for it.
He's been really squished into this KA, poor bloke.
Right, so what do we have?
We've got a Ted Baker rucksack. Lovely.
Laptop. Lovely.
A HP. You know he's in finance when he's got a HP.
That's not a sponsored ad. I have wallet. I have got my sunnies.
Yeah.
And
hold on, let me get this up.
A little hand cream. Funnily enough, that you recommend.
I do recommend that all the time.
Yep, I've seen it online, so I've got that. Other than that, phone charger. Nothing.
Some notes. Love that.
Pretty standard.
That is
boring.
Exactly what I thought you'd have in your bag.
Yeah.
So I think let's be a bit transparent here and talk about some of the errors I've made.
Okay.
There's been a lot. So I think the first error we came across was I was in the middle of a photo shoot. I think it was actually Miles's first photo shoot for Signet. So I'm on set shooting and Kyle rings me and says, what did you say?
Well, I wasn't trying to alarm you. I think I had maybe messaged you a couple of times before, but if you're busy. But basically that company's house were in the process of trying to strike off your company because you basically hadn't filed anything. Yeah. What that means is that they'll close the company, they'll seize any money that you have in that company bank, and it will give you a poor credit as well, and you'll struggle to trade again in future.
Yeah. So because I basically didn't know what I was doing, and I had an accountants that were doing their job, but they obviously just assumed I knew everything. They hadn't done any of this stuff. So when I came to Axia, they've obviously looked at my stuff and been like, hold on a minute, Isabel, your company's about to be completely struck off.
Yes.
So that was the first error we had to get past, which was what? Only really over a year ago.
Yeah, and that was obviously the most pressing thing.
Yeah.
Obviously then when we got into it a little bit, it transpired that you
Yeah.
maybe owed a few bills that you probably should have paid
Yes.
a little while ago.
I did owe a few bills, and that is probably financially the biggest error I've made, is not understanding how tax works, how VAT works, how corporation, all these different taxes. I literally had no idea what I was doing. And I think the thing I remember the most about, I think that was when it was last winter, I was literally on the way to a ski trip in Courchevel, which is probably ironically, the most expensive place to go skiing. And I spent all night moving my money around, like draining my personal savings, taking everything out that I could, all the money I made on the creative fund, everything from my business bank account, everything from my personal savings, to try and pay off these bills, because I genuinely had no idea that they had to be paid. So I hadn't accounted for that cash flow, and it was like 30,000-40,000 pounds that I suddenly had to pay overnight, and I just didn't. It wasn't available.
Yeah.
Like, there were invoices coming in and out. It wasn't there. So I'm moving all this money around, like trying to make it work, not messing things up too much. And I remember going out in Courchevel, and I was like, shit, I really have like £6 to my name, and I'm in Courchevel for it was like for a day, because I hadn't figured out my invoices. I'd messed up my cash flow. And you know what they say? Cash is king. You got to have your cash flow right.
That is a very common problem we see as well.
Yeah.
Basically, you kind of need to know at any given point what you have in the bank,
Yeah.
what you're owed, who you owe, what taxes you owe,
Yeah.
because it'll let you plan. Otherwise, you'll do what you probably did, is have a good time, spend a lot of money, take it out, do whatever you want with it, and then when the tax man needs paid, you're like, uh-oh,
Shit.
I'm in trouble. I need to pay it.
And luckily, I actually could pay it, but that kind of situation can make or break a business, because you didn't get it right.
Obviously, what you do is slightly different, but if you have an actual trading company where
you're paying invoices out,
and you need to go and buy stock,
yeah,
for a new season or whatever,
yeah,
if you don't have the money to do it, it will grind the business to a halt.
Literally to a halt, and completely mess it up.
Yeah.
So I think learning about cash flow first was the most important thing for me. What's another issue we've had? There's another one that we haven't. I know there's one more. What was it? The company I made by accident.
Okay, yeah.
What happened there?
I wasn't involved in this because it was way before I ever met you. But
I think basically when I first started my marketing agency, I made this company for it, and then I made a second one, and I just thought, I'll disregard the other company.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
Kind of once it's opened, once it's official, you have to treat it like a business.
Yeah.
Like it's your career, like that's
So I
what's
just
paying your bills.
opened this company, and then thought, I'm just going to change it, because I think I'd put down like my personal address.
Yeah.
I'd called it the wrong thing, and I was like, instead of fixing it, I'm just going to open a new one, which is completely the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
So then we obviously spent 6 months closing it down, doing all the filing reports, sorting it out. So it's small things like that I've learnt in the beginning that I would never ever want to make the mistake of doing now. So why don't we run through some things you can do when you're first starting a business, when you're first operating, so you don't make these giant errors that I have. So let's go from the beginning. Can you run through, because sometimes I forget, what are the different taxes?
So first thing that will happen is that you'll essentially become self-employed. You'll have your 9-to-5 day job, you'll do whatever you're doing, but you'll be making, let's talk about social media, you'll be making TikToks, you'll be creating content, you maybe get the odd little brand deal. Mm-hmm. Once you get over £1,000 of turnover, so £1,000 invoice, or however that's made up, you are obliged to you're obliged to file a tax return every year, and pay whatever tax you owe on that, because it hasn't been taxed the way your salary would have been, or your job in Tesco's, or whatever it is you do. That's the first thing. Then every year you have to file a tax return. You, depending on how you've did, the tax is due on the profits. So whatever you've brought in less whatever you've paid is what your profit is. Mm-hmm. On that is what you pay tax on. That's due generally around Christmas time every year. If it was with me, I'd rather you have it paid way in advance of that, so you're not left with a nasty bill way after the fact. But that's a slightly different matter. The next big thing you need to be aware of is becoming registered for VAT. Mm-hmm. Once your turnover exceeds £90,000 in any 12-month period, you have to register for VAT. That means you have to then start charging VAT. A job that you may have charged £1,000 for, and that was the end of it, you now have to charge £1,000 plus VAT, which is 20%, giving you have to invoice the other company £1,200. They give you the £1,200, but you've got to pay that £1,200 over to the VAT man. That's not yours. The problem becomes when people do that, they get the £1,200, spend it, and then have to do a VAT return.
So what I've done now to combat this, which I did actually about a year ago, which is a really good tip to do, is the bank app I use has pots.
Yep.
So every time I get paid, I actually put more in, so I'm never left short.
Yep.
I think I put 20% in my tax pot, which probably isn't enough, and 20% in my VAT pot.
Yeah.
So I've always, essentially every time I earn money, half of it's going away.
Yeah.
So I can't even see that I've got it, because that way you're never going to get yourself into any hot water.
And that is good practice for anyone, even someone that's just starting out. What I would advise is to open a different little bank account, get paid into that, pay any expenses you have from that. That will let you physically see how much money you're dealing with, if you're making money, and that will help you, whatever you've got in there, you can sort of apportion it to roughly work out how much tax you might owe on that, because if it gets washed in with all your other 9-to-5 money and your other bills, it just gets a bit confusing.
Yeah,
and
keep it separate.
Keep it separate.
And how do you deal with the question I hear my friends and people get stuck on a lot is, what's the difference between an LTD, being a limited company, and being, is it just self-employed?
Just a
is
sole
the other
trader.
one? Yeah.
So sole trader is just when you're a single person, you register for self-employed, you file a tax return once a year. That's all there really is to it.
But then that means you are liable.
You're personally liable.
Yeah.
For the taxes, for any, depends on your sort of trade as well, but any insurance claims, stuff like that.
Yeah. It's more risky.
Yeah, and when you get to a certain point, it's not that tax efficient.
Yeah.
You could have a really good year where you make 100 grand and you're paying really high taxes. The next year, you might be earning nothing and you'll have kind of wasted your personal allowances. And
but then when you've got a limited company is when you start doing the dividends.
Yep.
And I'll let you explain.
Yeah. So basically, a company is treated as a totally separate entity.
To yourself.
That company raises invoices. That company gets paid. You can then be an employee of that company, and then you, as the sole director and shareholder, can receive dividends from that company as well. That does, because you get a better rate of tax generally once you're operating at a certain level. Ultimately, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a risk taker, you're a wealth creator, so there is tax benefits to that. But that all depends on a case-by-case basis, depending on the person. I don't know everyone's background, but once after we would have a chat, I'd be able to tell you this is what you should be doing.
It's almost that I see it as you reach a certain level, it's no longer your business, like it's a completely separate business, you turn into a limited company. So one thing I find incredibly confusing is at the end of the year, your accounts basically get filed online, and I've had it and I've seen other creators have it where they will go and look on company's house and rip it to shreds and say, Isabel didn't make any money, she's not making any money, her money can't be hers, where's she getting all this stuff from? And what would your response be to that as a person that knows everything about finance?
Yeah, well, anyone that kind of knows anything knows that the figures you see on company's house are very limited. They'll give you not much information about profit. You can see what the assets of the company are. If they own property, vehicles, machinery, you'll see how much it owes out maybe to suppliers. You can also see sometimes what taxes they might owe depending on how they've been filed. But as for profitability, as for how much you pay yourself, there's no way of really working that out. You would, for example, you could make £1 million, pay the corporation tax on it, and pay the rest out to yourself. Your company would show basically zero of that. So there's no way anyone out there can really see what your personal net worth is from
me and Carl find it quite amusing when we see people make these big things up about how I don't own a business and it's all a fugazi.
For some reason you get it a lot, and I don't really know
I get
why.
it a lot, and we just laugh because something I was taught from when I was very young, even about business, even though I come from a background that's got nothing to do with business, is when you start a business, you don't want to show any profit. You need to be reinvesting the money, spending the money. None of it should actually be left on the balance sheet at the end of the day. It should all have been put into places that are efficient and that are going to grow your business and make it better. So when I see people writing these things about me, and I've seen people make videos about creators literally ripping them apart, saying there's no way she's making any money, she's failing. And it's like, you've actually got no idea. And it's the people that spend the time doing that have no idea really about how to operate. So you can never figure out what someone's doing.
Not really. You can't tell them you can't tell their personal circumstances. The only way you can tell someone's personal income is from their personal tax return, which is highly private and is never going to be seen. The only one that's publicly available at the minute is Mr. Keir Starmer's is publicly available.
Is it?
He got a lot of hate. So
I did see. Didn't he get like 120k a year?
I'm not sure what he was on, but he published it just to stop people having that debate. It's out there, it's public knowledge.
Yeah.
Go have a nosy.
So going on numbers, I want to talk to you about the creator industry and like some of the figures you've seen, because I do still think it's kind of unknown about how big the money is in the creator industry and how much people can earn. I think, like we touched on before, people see it's like a bit of a hobby. Oh, she's posting TikToks. People don't really understand that it is a business and it's a job and it's a career, and you can earn some serious money from it. So what is the biggest amount of money you've ever seen for a deal that a creator's gotten?
It's hard to pinpoint it down to a deal, because it has a deal can
vary
mean
from
anything.
like 2 TikToks to 20.
Yeah, but I've seen like reels that are maybe 50 grand a reel.
Crazy.
For like, in what to me as a non-creative person seems like a few minutes work combined into a 10-second video. But yeah, something like that. If you have enough clout and you're dealing with the right brands and you've got the right management advice, then you can charge a lot of money, and companies will pay it, because it's
we've seen.
Yeah, it's directly linked to a market. It's already made to tap into that market.
And I see people even now say like, oh, the influencer industry is dying. No one believes influencers. Like, believe us when we say we see these big figures every day coming across like I was going to say my desk, but mine's actually personally on WhatsApp. And the companies wouldn't be paying out these big sums of money if it didn't work. Like it works. It's a career. It's a real thing. And what are the spectrum of creators like Axia? Because obviously it's confidential, but I know you've probably got some amazing creators making amazing figures. Yeah,
we kind of deal with people they come to us right when they're starting out, just for a little bit of advice. And we can deal with that from right up to some really high profile ones who we look after, who are doing massive deals. And it's a fully fledged, they're celebrities, they're making a lot of money, and they're all kind of the same. They all start at that point and need help through the process. For example, you've did very well for yourself. We're glad to talk about. So for example, I know recently you've had one of your most successful weeks from your influencing, and do you want to say?
Yeah, we can say, yeah.
So you're
in
a week you're talking about 33 grand you made?
33 I think it was, yeah.
From 1 week of, that's just your social media work, which is...
That was my best week, yeah.
From someone who a couple of years ago was working in a run-of-the-mill office job, that's a lot of money. Yeah,
it is. And actually sometimes I don't think about it because, like we said, I treat it as a business and it's a separate entity. But I think sometimes I do think like, oh wow, that's a lot of money, and it actually scares me a bit, because like you said, I did come from, essentially, I was working a 9 to 5 role. I was an apprentice. I think my first salary was 16k when I was 18. My first ever job was like £3.20 working in a hairdresser's. So when you compare that, like £3.20 to £33,000, like it's just ridiculous. But that's easy to look at and think it comes overnight, but we know it doesn't. It takes all night. Like, it's constant.
Yeah, and you have a team in place. You have contacts. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes a lot of knocking on doors.
And it's easy to see. Even I post these TikToks and everything looks easy and great, but you never ever see any of the background of like how they're made, where they're made, why they're made.
Maybe you should do some.
I should.
DTS stuff.
That's like one of the points I'm trying to do with this podcast is like I'm just sat in a car having a conversation, and I know there's people watching this that have never even see me speaking like this, because every time I film, it's like I'm talking about something specifically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. You hear me speaking like this all the time, but
Yeah.
no.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was surprised at how much of a laugh we have when
Yeah.
it's together, and because online, it's all very
It's
stage
very
formal and
yeah.
you know.
Well, it is that. I think like Isabel Lorna as a brand, like I talk about her in third person,
Yeah.
is what is basically an elaborate version of myself times 10, mixed in with a bit of humour. But that's very different to how I am.
Yeah.
It's like me but amplified.
Yeah.
And I even find sometimes when I meet people, like for example, every time I go to Harrods, I see loads of my followers because it's like my hotspot.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's always in Harrods that like follows me, knows it, because I love Harrods. It's like boiling down my target audience to one place, and I always meet people and I think they don't really know what to say, because I'm like, oh hi, how are you? Like, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing later? Have you bought anything? And they're like, oh my god, like so full on. So obviously this is a podcast all about careers. So tell me about your career in finance, how it started and how you got into it.
So I come from a town in Northern Ireland called Coleraine. Both of my parents were self-employed, so I've kind of been involved and knew about VAT returns and tax returns and all that stuff from I was new age. I went to university. I studied business with accounting, got a first class honours degree from there. I then became a chartered accountant in Belfast. You have to do 3.5 years of exams, 4 years of working in practice. That's doing kind of what I do now, dealing with a whole range of clients in all sorts of walks of life. When I left there, I got qualified and I moved over to Liverpool. I took a job working for the university. I was the financial accountant there, but it was horrendously boring and mundane, and the average age of the office was probably 60 and I was mid-20s, so it didn't really suit. That's when I moved to Axia. I'm into sports, I'm into media, I like talking to people, dealing with people. So that's where me and Axia sort of fell into the good fit, and I've been there since. The company continues to grow. We have offices Liverpool, Manchester, Dubai, London, LA. So we deal with a lot of clients in the social media world, footballers, sports people, actors, actresses, film producers, kind of anything in that line of work. Not your day-to-day old school businesses per se, but loads of people in the new media, clothing brands, just new developing businesses.
And things that I think it's difficult in the creative space to know what can I expense, what can I not, because it's so niche and it's such a new industry. So it's really important to be able to go to someone that actually says, do you know what, Isabel, you can write that down as an expense because the only reason you've done it is for your business. Whereas some, my previous accountant would be like, no, you can't put that down. And I'm like, but I'm literally only doing that for my business. Yeah,
well, ultimately you have to take a balanced view. HMRC will always say it has to be wholly and exclusively for the trade. That's it. And that rule still stands. But what in the creative space, that looks very different to in a traditional trading environment. Let's say if you had a sweet shop, your costs are the sweets you buy, and your sales are what you sell them for. In the creative space, there's things that you need to do to generate content, and you'd have to take a balanced view to make sure they are for the purpose of the trade. And I did
actually have some good advice from someone recently, I think I told you about, is another creator, but he is in like the watch car space, and he actually recommended me to get investigation insurance, which is when you get investigated for tax, or that there's a lot of costs that come with that, like accountants working overtime, etc. But he said, Isabel, believe me, when you're sat in a boardroom with HMRC and they pull up a receipt of you going to Nando's on a Saturday, you don't want, it's embarrassing to sit there. So it's a really good view to take. Like every time you buy something or you think, can I put this on my business? Just envision yourself sat in front of HMRC and how can you justify it? And that's always the angle I've taken. Like, I'm scared of the tax man, I'm scared of HMRC. They always find out everything. It's never worth the risk.
Yeah, but there's loads of things you can look at, expenses that you're paying that the average person wouldn't be paying for. this
A
equipment,
microphone, yeah.
your lighting equipment, editing equipment, all that stuff, is allowable, is genuine expenses to your business.
Yeah.
Going for a Nando's on a Saturday with your pals is not. That's where it's handy to keep your finances completely separate. Have a business card or a business credit card, and if you're happy that that cost is solely for your job, you put it on that card.
Yeah.
If it's not, put it on your personal. If you can't afford it on your personal, you're not making enough money.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Not making enough money to get a Nando's. Okay, great. So, what advice would you give to anyone listening that wants to get into the finance accounting world?
So I went the real traditional route, going to uni, going to a proper training firm. I say proper, but a training firm, doing my 3.5 years of exams, which are horrendous. You can actually...
Can I just say, I literally can't think of anything worse.
It's horrendous, but
I can't think of anything worse.
But it is a means to an end.
Yeah, yeah.
What I would recommend for people, if I was to do it again, I would probably do it slightly differently. There's a lot of places you can do kind of on-the-job training. You come in, you work in an accountancy practice. Being totally honest, you don't get paid an awful lot, but then you don't have student debt.
Yeah.
You don't have student fees. You get trained. You become actually proficient at your job. You become good at what you're doing just by doing it day and daily. You're working with professionals, and you can develop that way. You can do your exams on a more relaxed environment. No debt, more work experience, and you're ultimately a better hire. If we're hiring someone, is it better for us to hire someone who's did their exams at uni but has never worked a day in their life, or some, I say kid, but who's been in a practice for 4 years, has been doing all the horrible jobs you get given at the start, but knows what he's doing?
Yeah.
You would take them all day long.
Which is an apprenticeship,
Yeah.
right?
It's
which is what I did. Yeah.
So there's no need to have to go the full formal, let's go through uni, let's do this. You can do it other ways, and it probably makes you more employable in the practice world.
Yeah.
That's working with different clients. I don't think that would apply the same if you were going to work for a big finance company.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the route to follow. But if you're just looking to work in practice, you can do tax returns, you can do VAT returns, you can get involved with all that stuff, and you don't need to be qualified, but you can learn on the job, and you can get qualified as you go.
Yeah. And for example, when I started out as an apprentice, which was in 2018, 2019.
An apprentice in what?
In a law firm. That's what I first did.
Was it,
I was an apprentice in a law firm, yeah. So I got an apprenticeship at a firm called Burgess Salmon in Bristol when I was 18 instead of going to uni. And I did a level 3 business admin course for 18 months. So I was supposed to rotate around marketing, finance, HR, and what's the really project management, the other one. We were supposed to rotate around, but because it was COVID, I ended up staying in the marketing department. And that's how I ended up starting to film day in the life TikToks, because they tasked me with promoting National Apprenticeship Week. And I was like, right, well, if I want to show people what it's like to be an apprentice, I'm going to put GoPros on the apprentices' heads and make them walk around, and I'm going to make a day in the life video. So I did that for YouTube, and then I was like, wait, this is actually really cool. I'm going to post it on TikTok, because this is in COVID when everyone had just started posting on...
TikTok was starting.
TikTok was
blowing
up. So I was posting these day in the life videos in this amazing fancy law firm in my little corporate outfit with my hair done and my makeup on, and people just loved it. Like, every video I was posting was getting millions and millions of views, millions of likes. Like, it was just crazy. How they never had a problem with it, I don't know, but they had a very loose social media policy, and I don't think they'd thought about the fact what's going to happen when a TikToker comes in here. So I started doing that, and then I actually took a 4-month break over the summer. I think I told them I was going to do an internship in the Bahamas, but I actually just had a boyfriend in the Bahamas that wrote me a fake letter. So I sold it to them in that way. I just wanted 4 months off. I'd just finished school. I felt like all my friends were at university, like having a good time, and I was stuck.
You're kind of in limbo a little bit.
I was in a limbo in an office, and I was like, I need to have a break, and then I want to come back and do a degree apprenticeship. So I had the break, came back to do the degree apprenticeship, but by the time I'd come back, my followers had gotten so big, and I'd got this, big personal all this personal branding and starting to come about Isabel Lorna. My handle then was actually a business apprentice, believe it or not. So I came back and I had all these followers. I was making these videos. I started going to Nottingham Trent Uni. I think I went twice. That was what the degree apprenticeship was with. And then I started earning money from posting TikToks. Like, I remember filming an Elizabeth Arden ad in the office toilet, and I'd get paid by Meshki to wear like a blazer to the office.
Do you still remember your very first paid job?
I don't know how much it was for.
Or can we say on this?
I don't even know how much who it was or what it was for. I think it would have been something like, I know my first ever PR I got sent was Rodial, which is beauty, which is ironic because I kind of went from beauty to fashion and came back round to beauty. I remember getting that PR box and I was like, oh my God, I've been sent £600 worth of products, like, for doing nothing. And I was like, it was such like an exciting, surreal moment. I also got given after that a Eternal Muse heatless curler, which is how I do my hair right now, believe it or not, all these years later. My first ever one, I can't remember. I'd have to look. I think it was...
We'll dig it out.
I know what it was. It was, I made a TikTok for not going to uni, which is now a careers platform where you can find apprenticeships. And I think I got £150.
Well, that's good, because it's kind of all came full circle.
It kind of did, yeah.
Very good.
So I obviously started getting paid for these brand deals, and I think it got to a point where I was getting 5, 6, 7K for a TikTok. And I was like, hold on a minute. My salary's £1,800 and I'm being paid £6,000 to post a video.
Yeah.
And this is like when I had like 400, 500K. I was like, this isn't a good business model. Yeah. But because I was working in corporate and that's why people followed me, I was like, I can't just quit.
Niche. Yeah.
That was my niche. So I was like, I can't just quit and become an influencer. So it was actually when I went to Celia Knightsbridge, who are still to this day one of my marketing agency's clients. I went in there to buy a handbag and I met Ayaz and I struck up a little deal with him. I said, can I have a discount if I post a TikTok? And Ayaz, being Ayaz, was like, I like this girl. Like she she's working her discount. She's gonna work for it. So he gave me a discount on the bag. I think it was £500 off £5,000 handbag, which was like, back then, so much money for me. I was like, I can't believe I'm going to London to buy a £5,000 bag. Like, it's ridiculous. It's a lot of money. And I went in to buy the bag and Aya said to me, oh, what do you want to do when you finish your apprenticeship? And I was like, oh, well, I want to start my own marketing agency, like in TikTok, because I'm good at TikTok. Yeah. And he was like, why don't you just do that now? And I was like, oh, yeah. So I had this like brainwave, and then I remember I was driving home in this car. I was driving home from the gym and someone else asked me, can you help me with my TikTok? And I was like, oh my God, I need to message Ayaz right now and just say, yeah, I want to help you with a TikTok. And I did. This. Yeah. And that was 4 years ago, and I still run, well, I don't do it on my own anymore, but Voir Social still run the Celia TikTok account. We're getting like 280 million views a year on it, but that is like a long-term client. And actually, most of the clients we've had for years. Yeah. We don't really have a high client turnover. Like, you see the invoices coming in every month. Yeah. It's always the same. Yeah. Plus, you don't want to dilute what you do. Like, you look after them people who have helped you get to where you are. Yeah, exactly. And I'm in a position now where that business is doing really well on its own. I don't want to have a massive marketing agency. I like that it's like a boutique agency. We've got amazing clients. At the moment, we've got like 6 clients that are all in the beauty, luxury, fashion space. It's like a boutique experience, and our clients' content does well because it's got that personal touch. It hasn't been transformed into a massive agency with 100 clients, like all running their social media. I've never wanted that. And to me, like, Voir Social is my little like baby. It's like my passion project. And the reason my influencing has done well is because I had something to launch it from. You had a well-established personal brand. Yeah. Before you ever needed to do that. I quit that job. I quit my job in the law firm to launch Voir Social. How did that go? How did you have that conversation? The day I went into the office to tell them, I wrote out this big, I think I told the person, and they were like, Isabel, we knew this kind of wasn't for you, and we see you doing this stuff. We want you to go and do it. They were very supportive. And Burgess Salmon as a law firm is an amazing place to work. Like, they trained me up when I first joined. They taught me how to answer the phone. They taught me how to write an email. They taught me how to walk into a meeting room. I had a training session on how to walk into a meeting room, and those values you learn, and I still have. Like,
take them with you.
I write my emails very professionally. Like, I write my messages professionally. I know how to answer. Hello, Isabel speaking. I still do it to this day. When I get a phone call, I answer and I say, hello, Isabel speaking, because that's how they told me to answer the phone. So what are the ways you see creators earning money? Because obviously we know people get money from brand deals, but what are the other ways that you can earn money as a creator?
There's actually loads of ways you can do it. The most standard are people who are TikTok famous. You know, when you get your revenue straight off that. You have your brand deals. You get, paid events. You get I'm trying to think what else.
Commission.
You get commissions. Everything, and then one thing leads to another. We have clients who start off as basic micro influencers and are now TV hosts and or actors and actresses, or
it's actually an endless stream of income. Like, there's so many different income streams that you couldn't even list what they are, because one thing leads to another, leads to another, that leads to another.
And ultimately, if you have a strong personal brand, that will open a lot of doors for you. So you do get opportunities that you wouldn't have had without that brand, which obviously generates more interest, generates more revenue, so forth, so on.
Yeah, and I know it's like quite interesting to talk about the main ways I make money, since everyone's so curious about how the hell I make any money. Most of my money personally comes from brand deals, so like long-term contracts. Most of my long-term contracts I have are with beauty brands, and I'm so lucky I get to work with exactly the brands that I want to and that I actually use. I make money from commission, like on LTK, when I do links on my stories, like all that is generating revenue. And then the other side of the way I earn money is through my marketing agency. So every month we have clients that pay us a retainer to deliver X TikToks, X videos, X reels. I think at the moment we post about 40 videos a week for clients. Like our biggest client, we do 3 TikToks a day for. So like there's a lot of videos being made and a lot of videos being posted.
And there's even ways you can kind of diversify that. You could be a YouTube content creator, getting paid straight from YouTube, but then you could also set up a subscription model. You can then sell merchandise. There's like so many ways you can monetize what you do. Yeah,
and coming back to our point of that, anything you do, like in the creator space, you have to treat it as a business, because if you treat it as a business, like you're going to do so much better. And remember, to treat it as a business, you need to have a good accountant.
Yep, exactly. Good. I couldn't put it any better myself, Isabel.
Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed your day out of the office.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Good, and we'll see you on the next episode of Passenger Princess. Bye.